All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Marketing and Sales Numbers Workshop. So, real quick before I get into the specific teachings today, I want to kind of talk really quick about why I wanted to hold this training. And it really boils down to just things that I see. So, most of you know already, and if you don't, welcome. My name is Micah McLean. I'm the founder of Search Click Grow, a digital agency that helps contractors and home service pros. And one of the things that we see with our clients is very often people making decisions based on incorrect impartial data. And a lot of times that leads to incorrect moves and incorrect growth strategy moves. And in some cases, extreme cases, it can be wasting money. In other cases, it may just delay or impair growth, or in a mild case, it may just not maximize your revenue as much as possible, right? So all of these things can kind of happen. I've been in this business for about 20 years now, coming up on 20 years, and 19 and some change. So coming up on 20 years, serviced thousands of clients, and I see this over and over again. So we've got this training we put together today to help solve this. Real quick, this class is going to be about marketing and sales numbers. This is not going to be about operational numbers like labor rates and insurance and profit and loss statements. That's a different thing. And you'd probably want to reach out to CPA type training for something of that nature. This is going to be knowing your numbers on the marketing and sales side. So we're going to talk about everything from the invested dollar all the way to getting a return back from an invoice paid. Okay. Now, with that said, let's jump right in. So why does knowing your numbers matter? Like what is this like? Why do I need to know? Can I just spend some money on marketing and then fingers crossed, or I hired the right marketer agency, or maybe I hired internal, whatever. I'm trusting this method. I know it's going to work, and just put money here and I know it's going to do good. Yeah, I mean, that's not really the way we want to run anything. Even if you've got the best agency, even if you've got the best marketer employee, you've got the best proven method, we still need to measure. There's nuance in everything. And measurement is the only way to ensure that what we're doing is the right thing. We're spending our money in the right spot. All right. So, what we don't want to do when we make decisions based on our growth of our company, where to put in dollars to invest in marketing, where to spend, should I go to Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever it is, right? We do not want to go with our gut. And this is something that I see far too often. I would venture to say that somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30% of my clients, current clients, come to me on a monthly basis where I see this thing and I want to do this, or I heard this and I want to do this. Don't do that, right? What we want to do is we want to make database decisions. Making gut decisions can work. And sometimes we get a false sense of promise. We may make a gut decision in a marketing or sales tactic, and hey, I need to make this gut decision. I saw this other person do this, or I saw this, and I'm just going to do it. Okay, it's cool to try. Maybe you get lucky, maybe not. It's sort of like rolling a dice, right? All of marketing, just so you know, just as a big disclaimer, all of marketing and sales is an ongoing test and refinement process. So no matter what you try or don't try, there's going to be some things that work and some things that don't. And we'll get into some more of that in a little bit. But so to one degree, no matter what, you're going to be somewhat testing, right? But the point here is that we want to use numbers as the guide for whether it's working. I don't care how you got to, I want to test X system or Y model. It doesn't really matter how we get there. You can listen to something that I advise, another person advises, read a book, watch a webinar, hire an agency, regardless. But once you decide I'm going to do this thing, right? I'm going to put this marketing channel, I'm going to hire this sales rep, I'm going to do this script, I'm going to put in this lead nurture sequence, whatever it is inside the marketing to sales cycle, whatever system it is that you're going to test, we need to measure. And then we need to hold that system accountable using data-driven decisions, not gut decisions. So let's go through an example and talk this through. And I think we're talking with the team earlier, like how do I really illustrate this and drive this point home? And we came up with this example, and I hope this can make sense. So this is something that I see very often. Look at the screen right here. What I have here is I have two advertising channels, Facebook and Google. Now you could replace this. It could be radio and TV. It doesn't matter what it is. But for this example, we're going to use Facebook and Google ads. So Facebook ads, Google ads. Those are the platforms. And let's just say we're talking about a 1 month timeline. In situation A, for both of these, I'm going to spend $1,000 a month. So that's kind of the known condition. I've got Facebook and Google, and each one of them are going to get $1,000, and I'm going to do this over a period of 1 month. All right. Now let's turn them on virtually and see what we see. The marketing campaigns turn on, and right out of the gate, I'm looking at a CPL, which stands for cost per lead. I'm looking over at Facebook, and it's got a cost per lead of $50, and Google Ads has a cost per lead of $100. Now, with this data alone, just this, what would you do? You're sitting here looking at, you're looking at your bank account, you're looking at your job calendar, you've got to get some more jobs on the calendar. You're like, man, I've got to get more jobs, right? And you're looking at this data set and you're like, you know what most people would do with this data, and be honest here, be honest to yourself. Would you cut the budget down on Google and put it to Facebook? Well, with this data set, I would, right? Because it looks like at this point, I'm getting a lower cost per lead on Facebook than Google. So with that piece of data, why wouldn't I either completely cancel Google or take some of the budget from Google and put it on Facebook? But here's where we're going to get interesting. What happens if we fast forward in the life cycle of that client and we talk about set rate? So if I spend $50 a lead and I set 10% of those Facebook appointments, right? So 10 leads and only one of them turns into appointment. Now all of a sudden my CPA, which stands for cost per appointment, is now $500, right? Because it takes 10, right? And I'm using really easy numbers here. Very likely this would be fractions, like 16.77 or some weird stuff. But to make this very easy for this example, I'm going to use very even numbers. So if I have 10% set rate, it means it required 10 leads before I got one appointment, which means I can do a 10x multiplier times my CPL, which means that my appointment cost is now $500. Now let's go to Google. $100 leads. It was way worse on the leads. It cost twice as much per lead. But let's assume in this hypothetical example that Google lead has a set rate of 50%. It only takes me 2 leads to get an appointment, right? So what will happen here is the 10% set rate for a $50 lead becomes $500. At $100 lead, if I have a 50% set rate, this becomes a $200 CPA, right? If the Facebook lead costs $500, the appointment, not the lead, the appointment for Facebook costs $500, and the appointment for Google costs $200. At this point in time, which one do you use, right? Now, at this point, you're going to say, well, I'll use Google. Google's better, right? So if I only showed you cost per lead, you would have chosen Facebook. If I only showed you CPA and I said, hey, make a decision, well, you're going to make the best decision you can. The cost per appointment is lower on Google. So I'm going to go with Google. Let's fast forward to the next data set. What happens if I have a different close rate? So close meaning the rate of appointment to closing the appointment, right? So let's just say that the cost per close, which is customer acquisition cost, CAC, right? Let's just say the CAC for Facebook is $1,000 and the CAC for Google is $2,000. Now I'm going to flip-flop back. I'm going to say Facebook is now the best. So as we went through this story, it's like at CPL, Facebook was best. At CPA, Google was best. And at CAC, Facebook is best again. So, and then we go to the last one, the last data point. Let's just assume that, on this Facebook, while my cost per lead was better, my cost per appointment was worse, my cost per acquiring a customer, CAC, was better, but the amount of revenue, basically meaning small jobs, right? I wasn't able to close a $10,000, $20,000 job. I could only get a $4,000 job, right? So now here's where we get back to the original. Which one is better now? If I look at this, which one is better and why? Well, I can look at the actual ROI, which is return on investment. I put for every dollar I spend in, how much money am I getting back, right? And this is where things get really weird. And most people will look at partial data. They will look at just the CPL. They'll look at their Google Ads scores. They'll look at their Google Ads dashboard, their Facebook Ads dashboard. They'll look at one data set in their CRM, and they'll make intuitive, aka gut decisions, but it's not the full picture. It's not the full picture at all. And so I hope this example kind of illustrates how these are important metrics, and we're going to dive into these metrics. They're all very important. I don't want you to not measure them, but you should not make decisions based on just one of them or two of them. We want to go over what actual numbers do we need to make the decisions on what works and what does not. And that's what this class is. So we're going to talk about the 5 key metrics that every contractor should track. Now, real quick before I just talk about what they are, these are going to be the numbers that I'm going to ask you to pay attention to and to track and to write down. There's more numbers involved in marketing and sales, and we're going to go over that. But there's only 5 that we need to actually input. And I'll show you how this works in a little bit. So we're going to have 5 key metrics that every contractor should track. Number 1, cost of marketing. So what does it mean by cost of marketing? And the example I gave before, we had $1,000 on Facebook and $1,000 on Google, right? That was the cost. But when we're talking about measuring cost of marketing, it's not just the advertising cost. We also need to consider everything else that goes into it. Your cost of marketing is going to be broken down per channel. I'm spending X on Facebook, Y on Google, Z on print, whatever it is you're doing, right? You're going to break it down by channel, and you're going to figure out your total cost. Now, this is going to vary by channel. For a traditional digital channel like Google or Facebook or something like that, you're going to be looking at 2 primary fees with possibly some ancillary ones in there. The number 1 fee is going to be the advertising cost itself on the platform. Your Facebook ad spend, your Google ad spend. That number is probably going to be the highest number of that total cost of marketing. The next highest number is very likely going to be the agency management fee. Now, it may be an agency, it may even be an internal employee. Let's say you have an internal marketer and they have X salary and they're working 40 hours a week. Half of it is spent on Facebook ads, the other half is spent on Google ads. You can take their salary, cut it direct in half, and say this percentage of that salary cost is part of Facebook, and this percentage is according to Google. Now, that might not be perfect. It may fluctuate a little bit, but you can at least ballpark it, right? And I mean, even for me, our services typically cover multiple things, web and SEO and ads, and so I ask my clients let's just take the total agency fee and like fractionalize it. So we charge X for, there's different plan levels, but let's just say we're charging you X. You can take that fee and say, okay, well, let's put 25% of that fee toward, assume 25% for SEO and 25% for Google ads, etc. We can figure that out. And if you're a client of mine, just get with me and I'll give you those numbers. But whatever you're doing, whatever that labor cost is, an agency cost, even your own time, if you're doing it yourself, what are you paying yourself per year? How many hours a week are you spending on this? And figure that math out and add that in, because it's not just the spend, it's also the labor. And the last thing that could come in is systems and tools, landing pages, call tracking software, reporting dashboards, AI tools, whatever it is, maybe stock photos. Like there's a lot of little miscellaneous tools that could come in here, and you need to calculate that as well. We do not want to just track ad spend, because that's not the total picture of what we're going to be doing. The second number that we want to track is the number of leads. And I want to talk about this real quick because there's a huge misconception on what this means. The number of leads is not the number of qualified people that are in my area that have a budget that want to work with me. That is not the definition of a lead. That is a definition of a qualified lead. Every marketing system on the planet, everything from forms to phone trackers to Google ads to Facebook ads, it does not matter. Their raw definition of a lead is going to be someone that engages with that mechanism. So let's just say you have like a click to call Google ad. Every phone call is a lead, according to Google. Let's say you have a Facebook ad. Every form bill is a lead. Now, some of these are going to be junk. And from the sales cycle, I get it. You want to say, hey, I'm talking X number of true leads. I understand that. The rest of the numbers, I'm going to show you how we can understand spam scores and stuff like that. But you must measure every single lead, every one of them, if nothing more, so that your sales side is equal to the marketing side. Let's just say a hypothetical example. You got you got 10 Google ads this week, or 10 Google leads from Google ads this week. And let's just say 5 of them are complete junk. Get a couple solicitors, a couple job seekers. Most people would not record those. They would only record the remaining 5. But as you'll see, as we go down the cycle of tracking accurate numbers, omitting those, even though they're bad, omitting those skews our numbers in a bad way. And multiple bad things happen. Mostly the data integrity goes away. We can't see the true picture. Sales and marketing never have the same numbers. There's just 100 bad things that happen. And the only good thing is that maybe it's peace of mind for you because it's the real leads. Don't do that to yourself. Track every single lead, because CRMs will track them when they come in. Call systems will track them. Form systems will track them. Everything. So even if it's junk, even if it's 5 hours away, even if it's a solicitor, it needs to be tracked. The next number is we're going to track the number of appointments. And the difference between these two is part of what I was just talking about. If I have 10 leads generated, the raw number of leads, and I only generate 1 appointment, I have a 10% set rate, that immediately tells me there's a problem with marketing. I shouldn't see 10% set rates. I should probably see 30, 40, 50% set rates, 20% at the very lowest, right? So if I've got a very, very, very low set rate, like, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%, that inherently tells me that the leads, there's a problem with the leads. So as a marketer, if I see leads in the CRM and I look at that set rate and it's really, really low, I know without you saying a word that there's something wrong with those leads. And that's really important. You'll know it. I'll know it. Everyone on your team will know it, right? Now, it's technically possible that you're missing phone calls or that someone in your phone answering is being rude to somebody. And maybe there's things to dive into here. But this is an important number and it tells us a lot. So we want to measure the number of appointments. So far, we've got total marketing spend, number of leads, and number of appointments. The next is going to be the number of deals closed. So if I, get 10 leads and I book 4 appointments and I close 2 deals, I've got a 40% set rate. And then we measure the closed deals from the appointments, not from the raw leads. So we'd say we'd have a 50% set rate in the hypothetical example. But right now we're just going to measure these raw numbers. And the last one is going to be total revenue. All right, so let's recap this. Real quick, total revenue just means the actual revenue collected. Like, what was on the invoice? Was it the $10,000 job, $3,000 job? What was it? So far, the 5 numbers that I'm telling you to track, and I'm going to show you in a second how they relate to everything, and you'll kind of get how we track and get really nuanced in this details by only tracking 5 numbers. So the 5 numbers to recap that you need to track are total spend, right? Your total marketing spend, how many leads, how many sets, how many closed deals, and the total revenue. All right. Now, once we get those numbers, we can move over here to our KPI. So everyone's heard this term. KPI is a key performance indicator, right? Now, what we just talked about was the 5 key numbers that you need to measure. But that's not the only numbers that matter in your business. Those are just the 5 that you're going to need to measure. To understand every other metric, the KPIs in your business that you need to pay attention to, we only need those 5 inputs. We measure those 5, and from those 5, we can auto-calculate the rest of the KPIs that I'm about to show you. And as I show you those KPIs that matter, I'm also going to talk about some things to look out for to help understand what's good and what's bad, right? So with that being said, let's jump right in. So the first KPI that we look at is cost per lead. So if I say I have $1,000 spend on Facebook and I generate 10 leads, right? I take my total cost of marketing, I divide the number of leads, and I end up with a cost per lead, right? Now, remember going back, and the first thing I said that these KPIs by themselves, you should not use as a basis for decision, but they're checkpoints. So the easy way to think of this is the money in and the money out is your return on investment, and absolutely your number one. But every little KPI can help you understand a problem. So what can cost per lead tell me? Well, if I know that for the last 6 months, my average cost per lead on Facebook has been $50, and all of a sudden I try a new ad out and it's $125, that is an indicator that there's a problem, a key performance indicator. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad, but it definitely means something spiked and I need to look at why. Maybe there's a problem. Maybe there's not. Maybe the ROI is actually better at 125 than it was at 50. You have to look at the rest of the numbers too, but this is a KPI that you would look out for. And if you see spikes or lulls in the cost per lead, then we can fix it. Okay? The next major KPI, cost per appointment. Same thing. If my cost per lead goes up or down, maybe my lead nurture or my people that are answering the phone, whether it's an admin or a call center or it's yourself or whatever, whoever is answering that phone and taking those leads in and trying to book appointments, maybe you had a bad day. Like, maybe there's some emotion that's going on. Maybe your phone system's messed up for a day and you missed some phone calls. There are a lot of things that can cause your cost per appointment to go up and down. One of them would be bad quality of leads. Maybe you got, the same input, cost per lead's the same, but maybe you're getting a bunch of junk. Maybe all of a sudden your leads are a bunch of job seekers because there's something that needs to be optimized and refined to your leads to weed out job seekers. That happens. It happens often, actually. And so maybe all of a sudden your revenue is the same, your cost per lead is the same, but all of a sudden your cost per appointment goes way up because you're booking less, right? You get the same spend, same cost per lead, but you're booking less appointments. Your booking rate goes down, so your cost per appointment goes up. So it's something to keep an eye on. No, it's still not the total picture, but it may go up and down. And the major factors that affect it are going to be the marketing spam quality, like how many spam junk leads are in that cycle. How well is your phone answer rate? I had a client come to me about a problem with leads, and I looked at his call data, and he had a 50% answer rate. 50% of his phone calls he was not answering. And he wasn't calling back for 30, 60, sometimes two hours later. And I'm like, this is just not acceptable. Like, this is why we have a problem. I don't even know the quality of those leads because you didn't answer them, right? A lot of times by the time you call them back, they're gone. So there's a lot of things. Basically, in this thing, if this number is going up or down, it's going to be marketing quality and or sales nurture qualities. Anything that happens in the sales nurture. That could be the CRM. If it's, we're talking about the automated text and emails that your drip jobs or other CRM may push out. It also is going to be the phone skills. Did you answer the phone? Did you call them back? Did you have good conversations? Were you able to handle answering objections and questions easily? All of that stuff that happens between the lead coming in and booked appointment, every single mechanism in there is possibly at play here. So, but if this number spikes, then we narrow down, we know what to go look at. We're going to look at junk leads. We're going to look at phone call recordings and see how your reps handle those phone calls. And we're going to dive in and figure out what actually happened. The next one's going to be cost per acquiring a client. Now, this one is going to be affected by everything that led up to this, but also it's going to be affected by the close rate. So maybe the lead cost didn't change, the spend cost didn't change, maybe the CPA didn't change, but all of a sudden my cost per acquiring a client went up. What does that mean? Probably you didn't close at the same rate. So if your close rate goes down, your CAC goes up, right? Using real even numbers, if I've got a $500 cost per appointment and I close 1 in 2 appointments, a 50% close rate, my cost per acquiring a client would be $1,000. I'm not saying that's what you should spend. I'm just using even numbers for example. Now, if I take that same $500 cost per appointment and all of a sudden my close rate goes from 50% down to 33%, it now takes me 3 $500 appointments to close one deal. So now my CAC is at $1,500. Right? Now, of course, another part that affects the CAC is what happened before it. The cost of marketing go up? Did the cost per lead go up? The cost per appointment go up? Right? Because I take that same thing. If I have a 33% set rate, but my cost per appointment is only $100, right? It only costs me $300 to do a CAC, right? So all of the variables are interrelated here. You know what I mean? So, but CAC is the next major KPI to pay attention to. Now, we also get appointment set rate. Right? So number of appointments divided by number of leads is that set rate, right? Remember we talked about these 5 really key input numbers. From that, we can auto calculate all of this stuff. The rate of leads to appointments is our appointment set rate. And again, the cost per appointment will go up, but so will the set rate. And same thing with close rate, right? So the cost per appointment and the appointment set rate are tied hand in hand. The cost per close and the close set rate go hand in hand. They're just different parts of the same formula, right? So you can see the numbers in the slides on the screen. The set rate rates are just number divided by number, and then the cost ones are going to be spend divided by result, right? So close set rate is the next one to take a look at. The next is going to be average revenue per job, right? We are telling you to put total number in, right? With total marketing spend at the top, total revenue income is the fifth checkpoint, right? From that, if we take, let's say you closed 3 jobs this week and you brought in $15,000 in revenue, well, what's your average cost per job? $5,000. Pretty easy, right? So these are KPIs that we can get from these 5 input numbers, right? And this kind of gives us it's kind of a health gauge, right? You can look at industry benchmarks across this, and it fluctuates a little bit throughout the country, but for the most part, there's not huge fluctuations. A lot of times there's debate like, the average roof cost is this in this state and different over here. The average paint cost is this over here and it's way different over here. Yeah, there's some trends. There's some higher, lower stuff that happens in different states and even in different counties. But for the most part, it's really not as different as you think, right? It's not going to be a 4 or 5x difference. It's not like the average paint job here in Jacksonville, for where I live, is 3,000, and in Orlando it's 10. That's not the case. It is not that wildly swinging. So what you can do is you can use this measurement to gauge yourself against benchmarks. Hey, in my state, the average exterior paint job is $7,000, and I'm only collecting $5,500. There's something wrong with this. Let's see if we can dive in and fix that. Again, the KPIs just give us the tools to know where to look to start investigating, right? The last one's going to be marketing ROI, right? And basically, this is a more advanced formula, but you could also do this a little more simple. Total spend divided by total return. So if I spend $1,000, and if I take total return is let's say $10,000, and I spend $1,000, if I divide it one way, I'll get a 10. That'll be a 10x. If I flip the numbers and divide the other way, I'll see 1,000%. You know what I mean? So it's the same math. It just depends on whether you want to look at it from a percentage or an X factor. Did I 10x my money, or do I want to see that in percent form? It's the same data. You can flip them and figure out how you'd like to see them. It's just up to you's preference. But the easiest way, total spend, total return, and divide them in either way, and you'll get your ROI. All right, so let's talk about actionable takeaways, right? What can we do to make this active? And stay with me, guys. Drop a comment here. Let me know if you're still with me, if you're getting value out of this. At the end of this, I'm going to give you a free tool to make all of this easier. So I'm talking about all these data points, but I'm about to make this really, really easy for you because I've already built a tool to help you with this. So stick with me. Now, let's get back to actionable takeaways. All right, so what are we going to do to make this easy, right? How can we... we got these important numbers. We got these 5 important numbers that we want to measure. And then we got several KPIs that we want to get from this that we can use to help investigate when there's problems, good things or problems that we need to investigate. We need to know what these numbers are, but how can we make this really easy to do? So let's talk about some actionable takeaways. Number 1 is we want to track the stuff per channel. It's a really, really key thing. You need to break this down. And I know that's more work. I know it sucks, but you need to do it. Because the reality is Google Ads is not Facebook ads. And even within the channel, there is a difference between Facebook organic results and Facebook ad results. And part of this, if you're working with an agency, if you're working with us, we're already doing it for you. If you're working with another agency, make sure that they're separating this somehow so that you can say, this is definitively Facebook organic. This is definitively a Facebook ad. This is definitively a website organic lead. This is definitively a Google paid lead. You need to know this because they have different expenses and you want to be able to track the ROI of each, right? So you want to break it down. Break it down per channel. If you're doing postcard marketing, break it down. If you're doing radio, break it down. If you're doing door-to-door, break it down. Doesn't matter what you're doing. This topology, this idea here of these 5 important numbers is going to be the same regardless of type of marketing. This applies to radio, postcards, bus signs, Facebook ads, yellow pages. I know that really doesn't exist much anymore, but let's pretend your town does have yellow pages. Even that, it does not matter. Whatever marketing source you have, I still want you to measure these same 5 things. Not only does it keep it consistent, but they're the biggest 5 numbers that you have. And from those 5 numbers, you get everything else. So we want to break down these 5 numbers on a per marketing channel basis. All right, consistent review. This is really, really important too. I have tons of clients that review this periodically. When they see their sales numbers going up and down, that's when they dive in, right? That's kind of like waiting till you're sick to go to the doctor. It might be too late, right? You might have a problem that's really big and you can't fix fast. And so the better way to do this is to consistently monitor your numbers. If you wait till there's a problem, it could be too late. So how do we fix that? Consistency. Our team recommendation is to do this weekly. So we set goals on a quarterly basis. Every 3 months, we take a look at here's what I want to accomplish in this quarter. If you take the amount of weeks in a year, it's 52, divide by 4 quarters, it's 13 weeks. So 13 weeks per quarter, we put on a spreadsheet and say, hey, I'm going to track week 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 13. And I have a goal, whatever that goal is, and then I'm going to monitor my results as I start getting up to that, right? And that's how we want to think about tracking this. You can wait till a month goes by, because 3 months in a quarter too, you can wait for that. But if you track your marketing on a monthly basis, the risk there is you get a third of the way through your quarter and realize you're off. How long is it going to take you to bounce back? Might be too long. That might be really problematic. So we're going to recommend doing weekly. Now, the reason we don't say, because we could take the same idea and say, well, let me just measure daily then. The problem with that is like no marketing responds on a daily basis. I can't go to Google and make a change and make it affect instantly. Marketing channels, all of them have different time periods. And one of the things to note is when we're doing all of this, we have to be respective of different channels. Organic SEO takes months. Facebook ads are pretty quick. If I do postcards, it's going to take a couple of weeks for printing and shipping before it ever hits a door. Like, you have to understand the normal timetables of marketing channels and be considerate of that. But I want to be really consistent with that review. And we found that the reasonable time period to get a pretty quick efficacy on fixing things versus like daily stuff is almost too granular. Weekly, it's a really great balance. I don't recommend waiting monthly. Then, if we're measuring that, we now have weekly things that we can take a look at and we can adjust and optimize. Is your closer having a bad week? Is your marketing team having a bad week? What's your, answer rate on the phones? All of this stuff, we can look at these things and we can measure them because we're keeping a finger on this pulse. We can measure this, and then we can talk to our teams, our partners, our vendors, whoever, and we say, hey, here's what I see. What can we do? What can we do to fix this? And by measuring consistently and putting a cycle into your organization to adjust and optimize, the goal here, if you've ever read that book, Atomic Habits, 1% aggregate gains is better than, trying to be like occasional big gains. What we want to do here is measure consistently and then adjust and optimize so we can be 1% better, 2% better. We don't need to get 10x better every single time we change something. And it's, not only unrealistic more often than not, it also I'd rather do 1% better every week than 20% better once a year. If you look at the math and do the compounding, it's just way better, way, way, way better. All right, next thing, manual input. And this is going to hurt some people's opinions, but and it even does for marketers, because we all think hey, I can just bring this data in automatically. I can set up a Zapier to bring this data from this system into this sheet and I can just measure this. You can absolutely do that. But here's why I'm going to suggest manual human input. If an API, which stands for application integration, like Zapier or some tool or CRM, breaks or has something that's unusual, it's still just going to pass on its data. And you're going to look at that data and assume that it's truthful. The very act of making a human say, I want you to look at every one of these Facebook leads. Okay. Not just look at the number that Facebook leads said happened, not just look at the number of calls it said happened. I want you to actually look at it. What maybe the a call tracking number broke. Maybe a conversion script broke. Maybe a Zapier shut down for a couple of days. You got 5 leads in on Tuesday, but none of them show up in your numbers. That is important stuff. And it's not uncommon to have one of these things break. I had one this morning with one of my clients. Something broke, and the numbers that they're seeing in the reporting dashboard isn't what's actually happening. And so now just looking at like Google Ads looks worse than it actually is. So human counts matter. Now, that doesn't mean I want you to sacrifice your automated data. There's a time and a place for that. And if you find errors in it, of course, fix it. But from a scorecard perspective, understanding your KPIs in your business, human review is critical. So I would suggest that you or an admin or somebody in your company be responsible for a set of numbers. And every week they have a dedicated time on their schedule that they're going to put those numbers in. And then at a point after that, you can review them. Okay? Manual input, super important. Accuracy. This also goes back to the human thing. It's kind of goes hand in hand, but we want to make sure that this stuff is really accurate, which means that sometimes you're looking at 2 or 3 or 5 different places. Maybe if you're counting website form leads, you're going to go in the website and actually look at where the form leads come in. You're also going to look at the email and cross-check them there, and you're going to look at the CRM and cross-check them there. Make sure you got the same numbers. Maybe one showing 5, one showing 7. Oh, what's the problem? Let me look and investigate, see if I can find the real number before I put it in that sheet. Because if we input wrong numbers into this, and then we see this full picture, but the numbers are wrong, we still may make wrong decisions. Really critical. I'm urging you to not make gut decisions, to make database decisions, but it doesn't matter if the numbers are wrong when we input them. So it takes time, takes diligence. Let's combine this human component with this accuracy component and, take the time it needs. Make it right. Okay. All right, guys. So that is it for my slides, right? My goal for today was to empower your business with database decisions. But before we go, I'm not done yet. I've got some stuff that I want to share with you. And what I want to do is at the earlier part of this, and even in our marketing stuff, I told you if you stuck around for the end, I'm going to show you a really cool tool that we built that's going to help you with these numbers. And with that being said, let's dive into that. And now we've got this. So this is a free tool that we built, and we call it the Customer Acquisition Scorecard or Contractor Acquisition Scorecard. What this is designed to do is to track these main 5 numbers, and from these 5 numbers, help you be able to plan and see the other numbers, the other KPIs that we talked about. And with that being said, let's dive in. Okay, so remember the 5 most important numbers that we want to track: cost of marketing, leads generated, appointments set, deals closed, and revenue, new sales, right? And here they are. That's these 5 numbers. And if you look at this sheet here, it's right here, right? We got channel names. You can just add as many marketing channels if you want. If you need to, you can duplicate this and make more. If you got 50, just duplicate it. So this is a Google Sheet, and my team is going to share that link on the Facebook group. We'll share it via email and SMS. You're going to get a copy of this. The most important thing when you first get the copy is this is going to be a private copy. This is our copy. You can't edit it. So don't come back to me later and say, I can't edit the document. I know you can't edit the document. You have to copy it first. So grab this document, go up to File, and click Make a Copy. And you make a copy of this in your own Google Drive. Open up that one, and now you can customize. Okay. With that being said, let's dive into this. So we talked about earlier having a couple things. So let's just say this is Facebook, right? And let's just say this is Google Ads, and let's just say we're talking about $1,000 a month, so $250 spend. Let's just say that the marketing costs, software and labor and everything, adds an extra $100 per week. So let's just say we're talking about $350, okay, $350 and $350, and let's just assume that the total marketing cost for Google Ads is the same in this hypothetical example. So same amount of input here, and I just put a bunch of random numbers in here, right? Let's just say this 12 leads generated, 6 appointments closed, 6 deals closed, 2 deals closed, $4,000 in revenue generated. This week we got 15 leads, 8 appointments set, 3 deals closed, 7,000. Now notice if I were to calculate this on a per basis, that's 2 jobs with a total amount of revenue of 4,000. That means average is $2,000 for that week. Over here, we have $7,000 divided by 3. It's a little bit higher. It's like 23, 33 or something like that, right? And then here I only closed one at 1,500. You see what I'm saying? So like we can get these numbers out of this. Over here, we closed one job at 3K. We closed 3 at 9. I closed 5 at 25. And again, these are all just example numbers. Right? You could put your real numbers here. Notice up here, each one of these is a week. Okay. So every one of these is a week. What you're going to do is just rename the weeks as you need to. Name these channels as appropriate. So like organic Google, paid Facebook, postcard marketing, whatever. Name your campaigns. Every one of these blue rows is a campaign. And then every week you're going to input these 5 numbers for every single campaign that you have running. And then here's what's really cool. When we switch over here, we start getting some fun stuff. So we start seeing, hey, these are the numbers here. And we come over here and we can look at this column and see our actual, right? This is we got here a goal column. So let's just say I wanted to spend $4,000 in Facebook cost for this quarter. I wanted to generate 125 leads, 50 appointments. When I close 15 deals, I want to make $75,000. This is my goal column. So I can come in here on a quarter basis and set these numbers per channel. You start with the organization, of course, on a different document. Just here's my overall revenue goals for the quarter, and then I break it down. Right? I want Google to do X. I want Facebook to do Y. I want my print to do Z. Right? Whatever that is, and write it down. Right? What are those expectations? If you don't know, you can talk to your marketing team and kind of help get those expectations. You look at past quarters results to kind of, here's where I was. I want to increase it by 5% or 10% or whatever number, right? So you can get those things. But once you have those baselines in this quarter, now as you enter throughout the week, it's going to sum all of the results here into this. So far I have spent $1,050 in this hypothetical example in Facebook. I've got 51 leads, 16 appointments set, 6 deals closed, 12,500 revenue generated. Now I come over here, cost per lead, 20, cost per appointment, 65, cost per close, 175, close rate, 38, set rate, 30, ROI represented in percent form. If you feel like changing the math to do an X factor form, you can flip that pretty easily. It was represented in percent form. I have a 1,190% return on investment. Okay. Now I can come over here and look at this. Now this channel, I had the same base, a little bit different goals, but at the same spend, way more leads, way more appointments, way more deals, and way more revenue. Right? So everything was better. Now the rates of close and set rates were actually lower over here, but the revenue was higher. And because of the revenue, the ROI is higher. So remember, ROI is money spent to money returned. And the leads generated, appointments set, and deals closed are just intermediate checkpoints. By themselves, they mean nothing. The investment to return is hands down the most important number. And it's right up here in the same line. You can even keep these collapsed and take a look at this and see ROI, right? You can just screenshot. You can have an admin do this and screenshot. You can have them literally come over here and just take a little screenshot of this like this and go, boom, here's our stuff. That's your data for right now. That's our data, and just text it to you. That easy, right? You can get a bird's eye view that easily, right? And that's the number one thing that matters is ROI. You need to make sure that the investment you're making in each campaign is returning back a number that makes sense, right? And typically the minimum that we want to see here is a 10x or 1,000%, right? So for every $1,000 I spend, I want to see $10,000 of revenue or more. Generally speaking, that's going to be right. Maybe your organization is a little bit different. Whatever those numbers are for you, you got these numbers here auto-calculated to meet those standards. Now, real quick, you may be here and wondering, like, why don't I just do this with my CRM? DripJobs gives you these numbers. Yes and no. DripJobs gives you leads generated, appointments set, deals closed, and sales numbers. And in fact, you can use DripJobs or whatever other CRM you're doing to get those numbers. But the problem is, remember that the marketing performance and sales performance by itself does not complete the ROI picture. So the problem with 99.9% of CRMs is they don't allow you to put the spend of that marketing campaign in. So I can open up any of my clients' DripJobs right now, and I can see how many leads were generated. I can see how many appointments were set. I can see how many deals were closed, and I can even see the revenue. I can see that at a glance very easily. but I don't see the spend, or if I do, it's in another system, right? So we need to combine the financial input side of things, which is typically split across spend on the advertising platform, spend on marketers, spend on tools. And we have to combine that and then take the same data here, and now we get a true cost of ROI on a per channel basis. Now, that's really it for the calculator. We built a couple small things over here. Everything from this column and over is really just administrative, just to kind of make your admin life a little easier. First thing over here, the status column, it allows us to just do like an on track, off track. You notice it changes color too. So if it's like off track, it's red. If it's like at risk of being off track, it's yellow. And if it's on track, it's good, it's green. That the metric owner should do that. We do that with our scorecards. We say this is on track, this is good. If something is, yellow, we're like, hey, we got to pay attention to it. If it's red, it's like, stop what you're doing and fix this now, right? And so that kind of tells us, like at a quick glance, where we need to put attention to, right? If you've got a goal and you're on your way to healthily meet those goals, then you're cool. Mark that status as green. My marketing spend is on track, so I'm good. Now, then we have the metric owner. This is useful. Maybe John does this metric and maybe Sue does this metric, right? You can assign this, it's not going to give them tasks or anything. It's not a project management system, but from the sheet, you can very quickly say like, hey, here's what's going to do this. Maybe there's an admin that does part of this. There's a finance guy that does the marketing cost. It doesn't really matter how you want to split it up, but it gives you that ability to assign a metric owner. Then you can also put a metric source. Like maybe this comes from QuickBooks, right? Maybe this, because this is Facebook, this is going to come from Facebook ads, right? So you literally just say, where do I get that data from? Where do I need to get it? Maybe this data comes from drip jobs, right? Not FDJ, but just DJ, right? So you can name where that source is at. And then over here, you can put notes, whatever kind of notes you want, like good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever makes sense for you. There's just a little note column. Okay. That's how you use this, guys. And so to recap, we got 5 really, really important numbers we want to track: marketing costs, leads generated, appointments set, deals closed, and new sales. With all of those numbers in hand, we get to see things like appointment set rate, average deal size, and all these other important KPIs to help us analyze whether our marketing and sales is healthy or not. And if we combine that with accurate human-led input, and we check this on a periodic frequency of like a week is my recommended, but we check this periodically, and we stay in tune with our numbers, it's really, really hard to get off track, because you're looking at things, you're accurate with numbers, you're looking at the right numbers, and all of that combined is going to help you grow your company, get better numbers, have better insight to what's happening. And when it comes down to, I got X amount to spend, or I've got to cut this here or whatever, you're going to have really clear transparency from an ROI perspective of exactly what each marketing channel is doing, which will lead you to those database decisions that we talked about up front instead of emotional decisions. With that said, guys, that's it. I appreciate you joining us on this training, and we'll see you soon. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you're looking for help growing your contracting business, I invite you to join my free community. In there, we go live with amazing trainings, share resources and downloads, plus you get free help from me and from peers. That link is down below to join, and we'll see you in the next video.